Hi, first graders. Matt Damon here, or Mr. Damon, as some of you know me. I am so glad to be here and to be making this recording for you. Um, I love to celebrate Ashland Reads, and I love that our Ashland Rotary Clubs are so committed to making sure that you have a great book to take home with you this summer. And I know that a lot of you are going with or that your family is picking up some things for you at school, or maybe already did that, and you'll get your book in that way. If for some reason your family wasn't able to get to the schools and pick up the book, we will absolutely have it for you next year, okay? So don't worry about that. Well, I want to thank the Rotary volunteers, the Rotary Club members, for really being committed to, again, making sure you get a book, and also committed to making sure that they support you in your reading and learning. What a great community support they are. Okay, so in the celebration that we usually all gather for, well, we couldn't gather this year, but we're sharing on Zoom. And one of the things that was going to happen was I was going to read my book, The Fall of General Custard, or The Overthrow of a Leftover. So I'm going to read it for you now. Okay, here we go. All right, and there it is. Now, I don't have the book in my hands. I actually have it on my screen, and I'm doing a screen share with you because I have a copy of the book laid out electronically on my computer. So here we go. The Fall of General Custard, or The Overthrow of a Leftover. Story by Matt Damon and art by Gideon Kendall. All right. Life in the fridge was quite peaceful and cool while under Queen Honeydew's virtuous rule. The queen led with fairness, and she never was cruel to the richest desserts nor the poorest thin gruel. The food groups were blessed by her wisdom and grace, and each sort of food had its own proper place. The fruits claimed the top shelf as their special space, and the next section down was the vegetable base. The middle shelf held an odd mixture of stuff, like pastas and cheeses and small pastry puffs. Below them were the meats, who seemed rowdy and rough, though deep down inside they were tender, not tough. On the bottom shelf sat the desserts and the treats, who were mostly well known to be kind, gentle sweets. Each shelf was well kept, each was tidy and neat, with all foods well sheltered from dryness and heat. Well, one summer morning the door opened wide. A new jar of cherries was welcomed inside. "Come live on our shelf," the friendly fruits cried, so the cherries were placed by the olive jar's side. When a cherry named Rosaline came out to play, an olive named Romeo shouted, "Hooray!" They bounced with each other and then rolled away to play hide and seek on the fruit salad tray. "Romeo, Olive, you're playful and fast, but why are you salty?" the sweet cherry asked. "Well, I'm stored in a brine," he said, "so I'll last. But like you, I grew on a tree in the past." Well, it was a wonderful welcome surprise when both of these fruits with their very own eyes saw that they'd made a friend of the same shape and size. But then they heard shouting and loud, angry cries. A leftover Custard was making a fuss, wielding his sword, making threatening thrusts. "I'm General Custard the infamous, and I say the cherries belong down with us. Sweet maraschinos, I think you should know, belong on desserts for good taste and good show. So, Queen, I demand that you send them below, and if you do not, I'll declare you my foe." Well, this grumpy old Custard was mighty upset. These cherries were foods he was greedy to get. If on top of his filling sweet cherries were set, then he was sure to be known as the best dessert yet. Well, The queen then replied from her high royal seat, "Old Custard, you're different from most other treats. Perhaps you were cooked at an unwholesome heat. It seems that your filling is bitter, not sweet. Maraschinos are sweets, that is partially true, but truth can depend on a food's point of view. Now, I say the cherries may choose what they do. Since they say they are fruit, I declare they are too." Well, old Custard fell silent and then slipped out of sight. But he spoke to the sweets on that very same night. "The queen isn't fair, she doesn't rule right. We sweets have been cheated and now we should fight. We must stop this problem right down at its roots, or there'll be a day when pies are called fruits. Oh, let's thump that ripe melon, give her the boot, and then I will be king, the king the foods must salute." Well, then up to the meats Custard shouted his speech. "The next thing you know, that queen's wisdom will teach that a sausage is a squash and that a burger is a peach. Oh, come fight with me, meats, I do beg and beseech." Well, the meats were all swayed by his strong point of view. They cried out, "A food fight is long overdue." And the sweets agreed, "It's true, it's true. We will not be ruled by this dumb honeydew." Well, that night, a bologna brigade with a pie and a prawn snuck up to the fruit section just before dawn. They food-napped the cherries with boldness and brawn. When the other fruits woke, the poor cherries were gone. And you can see Romeo in his jar just sleeping away. He doesn't know that his friend is being taken away. Well, the queen wasn't one to use soldiers and troops. She preferred to have peace among the food groups. But that day she declared, "I must whoop my war whoop, for the cherries have been food-napped by vile nincompoops." Well, a war was declared, so the foods did divide. The sweets and the meats were on old Custard's side, while most other foods let the queen be their guide. Some terrified turnips decided to hide. Now Romeo Olive, that round shiny lad, was a little bit scared, but mostly just mad. He thought to himself, "Oh, egad, this is bad. Food fights are awful and wasteful and sad." He knew that most foods were quite decent and kind. But ever since Custard got war on their minds, the peace in the fridge had begun to unwind. Was Rosaline safe? It was her he must find. So Romeo rolled off to find her in haste. He rolled despite fear of the dangers he faced. He hadn't 1 minute to worry or waste. The start of the war he could practically taste. It was Custard's fierce forces that fired food first. A fudge sauce bomb landed loudly and burst. 3 beets were bruised badly and had to be nursed. Some pies charged in hard with the large liverwurst. Salamis and sausages made in New York tossed the fresh salad with help from the pork. The sweet bubbly wine shot her dangerous cork, and chocolate bonbons were launched from a fork. Now, once Custard's food army began its attack, the queen's cuisine was forced to fight back. The mustard yelled, "Custard's a big brainless snack." And the cabbage rolled over the liverwurst's back. All the fruits and vegetables lined up in rows on the queen's first command. They charged at their foes. A platoon of potatoes from East Idaho attacked the lime jello with balls of bread dough. Well, as Romeo rolled down that bombed battlefield, he hadn't one weapon of war he could wield. He had no thick armor, no helmet, no shield. He almost got fudged and then nearly oatmealed. Well, he dodged the two armies and rolled very far without getting bumped or bruised or scarred. But as he rolled nearer to Rosaline's jar, he was spied by old Custard, who watched from afar. Young Romeo's search for the cherries, it seemed, had gotten old Custard most mightily steamed. The general pointed his sword and then screamed, "I command that olive be peeled and then creamed." Oh, it doesn't look good for Romeo. Now Romeo's fate looked much worse than just grim. As the sweets and the meats gathered round him, the chance for escape was far slimmer than slim. Then Rosaline leapt from the cherry jar's rim. When she landed, she shouted so all foods could hear, "Beside this brave olive I'll stand firm and near. I'm a sweet and a fruit, that's perfectly clear. There's no reason why innocent foods should be smeared. We food groups have different shapes and tastes, and now fears in our hearts which old Custard has placed. But look, we're all foods, and the fact must be faced that mashing each other is simply a waste. We must all refuse to take part in this game. Should foods fight a war so that Custard finds fame? Well, I say no way, and I'm willing to claim that the other fine foods of the fridge feel the same." Well, the meats and the sweets all suddenly froze, for foods respect courage, everyone knows. Then meanwhile, the olives and cherries each chose to line up at Romeo's side in tight rows. Then a meatball, whose name was Sir Roland O'Dew, called out to his friends in the thick meatball stew, "Let's join these bold olives, these brave cherries too. Let's join in this peace plan, this wise switcheroo." Well, out of their pot meatballs hopped one by one, until inside the pot was a total of none. Some peaceful green peas joined what had begun, and the sesame seeds jumped right off their bun. Oh, the small baby wieners and eggs scrambled out, with sausages, beans, and some shy sauerkraut. A frosted fudge brownie gave a hug to a sprout. "That Rosaline's right," the wrinkled raisins did shout. Two steaks and a cake, who were weary and worn, made peace with the ketchup and kiwis and corn. All through the fridge, new friendships were born, and a pledge to keep peace was solemnly sworn. Well, the queen yelled to Custard, "It's time to surrender. Please join us here and be a war ender." But Custard still dreamed of power and splendor. He ignored the small part of his heart that was tender. Cried Custard, "I'm second to none, don't you know? I'll bash you peacemongers myself, tally-ho!" He swung his sharp sword in the air high and low, but all foods could see he had nowhere to go. Before he could move, there came a command that he should be tied with a strong stringy strand of Sprago spaghetti, the extra long brand. Now Custard would never be king as he'd planned. A piece of Swiss cheese then wisely decreed, "Our peace in the fridge will only succeed if we follow leaders who don't lead with greed." And every last food group agreed, "Yes, indeed." The olives and cherries all joined in a cheer, "Hooray for the queen, hip, hip, and hear, hear." Then Romeo spoke into Rosaline's ear, You're a very brave cherry, a heroine, dear. Well, Rosaline smiled a small, humble grin, and she said, in this battle we both risked our skin. We proved we are friends through thick and through thin, and showed stopping a war is the best way to win. Well, to the freezer the queen sent Custard away. Guarded by popsicles, there he must stay. His return to the fridge will be welcome someday, if he's willing to give up his rough, warlike ways. Make peace, not war. All right, I hope you enjoyed a reading of The Fall of General Custard or The Overthrow of a Leftover. I always love reading my book, and I hope that you enjoyed it. Well, I'm going to leave you with one last thing. Usually at our celebration, our Ashland Reed celebration, the fire department comes and serves us lunch. They grill hot dogs and other things and bring us lunch. And since they couldn't do that this year, they did send a little picture for our celebration. So let me share that with you right now. Whoops, I gotta keep myself in the screen share. Sorry about that. Okay. This is Kelly Byrne, one of our members of the Ashland Fire Department, and he's giving the thumbs up to reading, and he really wants to encourage all of you to be sure to read a lot this summer. And of course, he learned a lot about how to be a fireman by reading books. Okay, so I hope you got to see the video that the Ashland Rotary Club members made for you, and Tish's song that she sang for you, and that I hope you got to sing along with her, and Lynn from the public library telling you about summer reading. And I really want to encourage you to do the summer reading program. And even if you're not doing the summer reading program, go to the Jackson County Library Services website, because the Ashland Library and the Medford Library, they can get you real live books to read this summer. And they have a really wide selection of ebooks too, if you can't get to the library. And it's very easy to get a library card and all that stuff. So please go there. And let's see. I think that might be it. Okay, so I'm going to say goodbye. I hope you have a great summer. Read, read, read. Enjoy your reading this summer, okay? All right, and I'll see you next year when you are second graders. How exciting. Okay, bye.